Investigators have found no definitive link between the deadly New Year's morning truck attack in New Orleans and the explosion of a Tesla Cybertruck some hours later outside the Trump Hotel in Las Vegas. We will have the latest tonight on both investigations.
And I'm turning to Copel in New Orleans on a balcony overlooking the famed Bourbon Street. The FBI calling the attack here premeditated and evil. And while the investigation continues, authorities say they are now confident that the attacker acted alone. They also say new evidence, including video posted to social media, shows that Army veteran Shamsuddin Jabbar was, quote, 100% inspired by ISIS. This world-famous party known as Bourbon Street reopened to the public today, demonstrating yet again the Big Easy's ability to bounce back. And tonight we're also learning more about the 14 people killed in the attack, their families mourning a loss on a day on the calendar set aside for celebration. We're going to hear some of their stories in just a moment. And while investigators say the attacker was killing in the name of ISIS, the FBI is also asking for tips from the public tonight, releasing these images of Jabbar an hour before the attack, along with a photo of a cooler with an explosive device inside. CBS's Omar Villafranca now with everything we know about the investigation.
I need EMS to get out, Bourbon now. We have dozens of people that got hit by this car.
Less than 48 hours after the deadly attack on Bourbon Street, a clearer picture of the man behind the mayhem. FBI officials say they now believe 42-year-old Shamsuddin Jabbar acted alone in carrying out the New Year's Day attack that left at least 14 people dead.
This was an act of terrorism. It was premeditated and an evil act.
This video shows people dodging Jabbar's truck as he accelerated down Bourbon Street early Wednesday morning. Crashed shortly afterwards and opened fire. Jabbar was killed on scene in a gunfight with police.
He originally planned to harm his family and friends, but was concerned the news headlines would not focus on the, quote, war between the believers and the disbelievers.
Jabbar, a decorated U.S. Army veteran who served in Afghanistan, pledged his allegiance to ISIS before last summer, according to investigators. The FBI says he rented an electric truck on Monday in Houston, Texas, where he lived, and drove to New Orleans on Tuesday evening. After midnight on the morning of the attack, he placed 2 improvised explosive devices in coolers in the French Quarter. He posted a final online video proclaiming his support for ISIS just minutes before he plowed into the crowd on Bourbon Street. From the White House today, President Biden revealed Jabbar also had a remote detonator. Records show Jabbar had worked in real estate in recent years and was a former employee of the consulting firm Deloitte. He had been married and divorced 3 times, and one of his previous wives had a temporary restraining order against him. Authorities are still trying to piece together how and when he became radicalized. 3 phones and 2 laptops linked to Jabbar have been recovered. Tonight, Bourbon Street has reopened, a turn from tragedy to normalcy.
But we will restore, we will return to normalcy, and we can do that and still show respect and honor.
And we also just heard from President Biden, who said he will try to make his way to New Orleans soon. We also have Omar Villafranca here. Omar, less than 48 hours from this attack, an attack that happened, believe it or not, it's hard to imagine, on the street below us, and yet there's a party there going on right now. What's the mood like tonight?
Tony, it looks like Bourbon Street. It's starting to sound like Bourbon Street, and it's slowly starting to feel like Bourbon Street. And part of that is because of the heavy police presence. New Orleans PD. You also have state troopers, FBI agents, and Homeland Security agents all walking around trying to make people who are coming here after the game feel safe.
Yeah, and yet the energy level is going up by the second. Omar, thank you very much. Just before Bourbon Street reopened to the public today, though, there was a small ceremony honoring the 14 people who died in this attack. They were honored with a yellow rose representing each and every one of the victims. And tonight, as more of the faces and the names of those victims are being revealed and made public, their loved ones are also beginning to share their stories. For many of the families, there is no making sense of it. How a New Year's celebration on Bourbon Street could turn into a lifetime now of mourning.
We still haven't really wrapped our minds around that. A terrorist attack took our Matthew.
Zach Colgan's cousin, Matthew Tenedorio, was 25. A goofball, he remembers. He lived here, and like so many others, was ringing in the new year with friends.
His laugh was contagious. If he had a superpower, that would be like his secret superpower to make people laugh.
Reggie Hunter, meanwhile, was 37, a father of two from Baton Rouge, his youngest son just a toddler. And his cousin Sherelle Robinson Jackson says while he worked as a warehouse manager, what he loved was his family.
They're crying. They're feeling numb right now. They're hurting.
Nikira Cheyenne Dito was 18, a recent high school grad from Mississippi, whose dream was becoming a nurse, like her mother. And Hubert Gothrow, 21 and class of 21 at the Catholic school that confirmed his death, and has asked the entire Archbishop Shaw community for their prayers. Nicole Perez was 27, the manager of Kimmy's Deli just outside New Orleans, a dedicated worker, according to her boss, and a loving mom. She leaves behind a 4-year-old son.
My heart's broke.
Here's Nicole's mother, Martha.
She works so hard. She has a lot of dreams. She has a lot of dreams. She can't do it now. It's going.
Kareem Badawi was a freshman at the University of Alabama. A lovely boy, his father remembered on social media. What he loved was football. And so did Martin Besh, a star player at his Louisiana high school where he was nicknamed Tiger. He went on to play at Princeton University before moving to New York City. He still loved to hunt and fish, though, his mother said, adding, he went out at the top of the world. Just some of the 14 people who came here to Bourbon Street for celebration and who never made it home from that celebration, even as, strange to say, the party begins once again tonight all around me, which brings us to the big football game going on here, a college playoff game that drew tens of thousands of fans here to New Orleans. The Sugar Bowl, it kicked off today about a mile from the Sorrows here at Bourbon Street, and after it was postponed for a day, security was tight as CBS's Michelle Miller made her way inside.
A college football playoff under a dome of security. The previously sold-out crowd surrounded by SWAT teams, specialized barriers, bomb-sniffing dogs, and drones. An unprecedented level of security in place to defend the powerhouse matchup between Notre Dame and Georgia, blocks away from yesterday's terror attack on Bourbon Street.
We think that we can keep this community safe. We've shown it time and time again. We are a city that has so much crowd management.
But that must-go-on mentality is